Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody always asks why, I'm here to ask, why not? I'll be breaking down the mindsets of guests as well as my own in a bid to find out what makes people say, why not? Okay, hello and welcome back to Why Not. So today I am interviewing Denise McCarthy. Denise McCarthy of Happy Zest Nutrition. Now Denise is a little bit different from the other nutritionists I've had on. She's actually a dietitian, which she explains the difference in the start of the episode. And we actually talk a lot about child nutrition today and how to deal with the likes of fussy eaters and helping children get more balanced diet or different weight issues with children. So main focus on this. We do talk a little bit about adult nutrition as well. But again, we do focus mostly on children, and she deals with these, and she deals with a lot of different issues as well. She's also a FODMOP trained dietitian, so if anyone is struggling with IBS, she is someone you can go to help you through the process. And yeah, so as ever, sit back and relax, or walk and listen, whatever way you like to enjoy the podcast. Here is my episode with Denise McCarthy. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Why Not podcast. Today I've got Denise McCarthy, and Denise McCarthy is a dietitian here in Dublin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Denise to actually explain to you what a dietitian is, because they are slightly different from a nutritionist. So Denise, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's great to be here, Chrissy, and to be invited on your podcast. So I suppose the question of the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist is kind of, it's something that would crop up from time to time. Even people would ask me. Dietitians have a registered qualification to their name. Nutritionists also can be qualified, but they're not registered. And what does that mean? So when you say that a dietitian is registered, it means that they have to follow a code of practice, and Coru are their kind of governing body where they will be audited. Nutritionists don't have that registration process. So in turn, what does that mean? It means that unfortunately, nutritionists also can be qualified in the sense of have a degree like dietitians, but there's no guarantee that they may. So a nutritionist can be called after maybe doing a year course or an online course, or equally if they've done a master's in nutrition or a degree in nutrition. So that's one difference. Another kind of, I suppose, difference in their role is dietitians can be employed by the HSE or NHS, whatever you identify with. They can work in hospitals, they can work with GPs, and they advise on medical conditions as well as lifestyle conditions. Nutritionists can advise on lifestyle, sports, nutrition, industry, product development. Dietitians can also kind of fill in that role as well. So that's really kind of the two differences, really, that the dietitians are registered. So you know that anyone that has dietitian in their title, they definitely have they've studied either for 4.5 years or they've gone on to do a master's, and they are qualified. With nutritionists, of course, there's plenty of really good nutritionists out there that are qualified, but because of their title is not registered, you've no guarantee that the advice you're getting from a nutritionist is actually from a qualified nutritionist. So that's kind of the difference. And obviously then, as I said, in the role that they go into in the professions. So I don't know if that's any clearer, but
no, I think it does. I think it's a common theme. We were just saying before we started recording, like with PTs and the likes of dietitians, like it's very easy, or nutritionists more so, that like anyone can kind of do a little course or do something and claim with that, and if they've enough followers, basically people take what they say as gospel. And it's really important, especially with this, because it comes to your health as well. It's not just diet crazes and stuff like that. It's, you need to know you're going to someone who knows what they're doing, talking about, like.
Well, that's it. It's about prevention ill health, and then if ill health unfortunately strikes you, it's knowing the right advice of how to get out of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not about, oh well, whatever health complications I may encounter, that's in 20, 30 years time. It's the foundation happens now. And equally, if you get wrong advice and overload your body with a certain nutrient, or you don't take enough nutrients of certain, carbohydrates or protein, if the imbalance is wrong, that equally can have detrimental effects in your health, and people don't realize it. It's more kind of the instant kind of, let's get it done now, let's get the results done now. So that's the problem, really. It's the slow burner.
We want everything yesterday, don't we? We don't
want
to.
Yeah, that's it,
And how did you get into this area of work?
Well, I've been a long time now in this area. So I've been nearly 20 years practicing as a dietitian. And I got into it, I suppose I always wanted to get into, I went into catering first of all, and I did home economics. And then I wanted to get more into the advisory role of kind of nutrition, diet, etc. So I kind of grew an interest kind of in special diets, and then I realized, like that, I was looking at all the different courses, and I thought, I just don't want to do a short course. I want to go back. So I went back to college and did 4.5 years, very long, but it was worth it. I really enjoyed it, and a hard course to do. And yeah, so since then I went into working in a hospital, and then working with GPs, and also working in different areas. I've worked in lots of different clinical settings. So that's one thing about being a dietitian. The area of work is quite varied and interesting, So it's, but you have to have a real passion for it, because it's hard work as well as regards to study,
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as bad though if you really are interested in it, though, isn't it? If you're going for something like that.
Yeah, I think it's very much so that you really have to have, as I said, an interest in it, and kind of a genuine kind of it's kind of getting the right advice or giving the right information. One thing though, Chrissy, I'm sure you find this as well. There's one thing in giving, good advice, but it's the doing of it. It's people implementing that advice is a whole other kind of way of delivering information. It's getting people to do it and to be able to be consistent with the advice. But yeah, you have to have a real passion. And I think that comes across as well. When you do have that passion for your job or the information you're giving someone, people pick up on that as well. So it kind of is a knock-on effect, hopefully, in how
they're more likely to listen to you then.
Yeah, that's it. And how they take up on it. Yeah, definitely.
So as you did say, you deal with a wide range of things, but one of the things you were saying, or I saw, is you deal with children's health. And is there any kind of particular trends you're seeing with children these days, or is it more like sick children, or kind of children who maybe just have dietary issues you deal with, or you see?
Yeah, it's a whole like it would be GP referrals, or a pediatrician would refer, or else parents can self refer in as well. So there's a whole range from fussy eaters, food allergies, to what's called failure to thrive. A child fails to grow in kind of simple language, but basically they may not grow according to where they're expected to be growing on a growth chart. And also obesity is a huge issue. And a lot of there will be fussy eaters, what they classify. They don't eat, a wide range of foods, and they're the most common really areas I see. And then there are quite sick children as well, who will be tube fed or stuff, but it's mainly the areas I spoke about there, just about trying to, one group not really eating well enough, and the other overeating in the sense of obesity. So the overeating part, that really, children will mirror what they see. So it really is the practices at home, and how they eat, how they shop, how they plan meals. It's all, the children pick up on that, and they will literally carry on the habits of their parents or their siblings, how stress-free an environment is when they're actually eating meals also contributes to how well they'll eat. Now that's all well and said, and you can read that in a textbook or you can hear that from a dietitian, but equally parents will eat, you know, the most healthiest of food and you still may get a fussy eater, or you still, you know, but generally the trend is, especially really what I'm referring to, Chrissy, actually is children who are overweight. They will mimic what they see. Now, I'm not suggesting that every overweight child, there's overweight parents, but generally habits are picked up by what's brought in. And there's no easy solution. You never put a child on a diet or weight reduction diet or start just, you know, eliminating foods or just start giving them fruit only as snacks. And, you know, you teach them then about what's good food and what's bad food, which is not everything in moderation. Yeah. So it's no extremes, because then the child will either, one, rebel and start eating more and start comfort eating, and that will be a release, or two, they associate food with guilt. You know, it's the whole behavioral part component as well. So basically it's just out there on the pitch. You use up the energy that way, you know, keep the food consistent, you know, even if they are eating a large amount, don't do any different. Just don't add more to it. Just keep it as is and get them moving more to try and, because they will grow and they will balance out the over energy kind of intake with their growth. But if you keep on adding more bad habits to the bad habits already there, then it's going to be harder. So that's, yeah, that's it. That's nearly a whole podcast in itself, but
I suppose even like you were saying, like it comes from the parents and what they buy and what they bring into the house. And like, obviously the parents of like children now, or, you know, teenagers and stuff at the moment, like they would have been grown up with the bad food, good food scenario. So it's kind of, you almost have to teach them not to teach their kids the same thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And sometimes I think parents, they may want to improve on what, you know, through their own health goals and then pass it on, and they might be over eager to try, okay, no, I'm really going to, you know, and it's trying to take a step back nearly and say, no, listen, it's about moderation, you know. So it's trying to get them to rethink about not to be too extreme as well in their viewpoint of what a healthy diet is. I think if you were to ask people what they thought a healthy diet, they would give the most, especially when a dietitian asks them, they'll give the most, you know, beautiful diet history, or as we call it, history, a diet intake for the day. And that's not really on. So it's really mentioning all the foods, like, you know, what I'd say, have a treat, but it's a small treat. It's not like a big, huge packet of crisps, or, you know, everything's got distorted anyway over the years, portion sizes, etc. But it's including all the food groups. But you're right, it's retraining the parents as well and getting the right information and education to them, you know, without being too prescriptive, you know.
Yeah, like it's just explaining, because I said children will pick it up off their parents. So if the parents are saying, no, you can't eat that, that's bad, now the kid's going to form that in their brain as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One thing I think about when parents say with takeaways, or with, say, kind of going out for dinner, well, mind you, going out for dinner at the moment is kind of off, but they don't know how to, they go overboard, or they use food to celebrate, which of course should be used to celebrate, but kind of to reward. Whereas the takeaway, of course, should happen. And, you know, the treats should happen, but it should be like, instead of every weekend, every second weekend. Or if you want chocolate every day, great, have chocolate every day, but make it small chocolate buttons mixed into yogurt. Do you know what I mean? Or, and you're getting a bit, maybe a banana in with the yogurt or something. And it's that kind of, you know, it's not sensationalizing treats either. That's, I suppose, what I'm trying to say, you know.
Yeah. Did the parents get a bit apprehensive when you ask about what the diet's like? Because you're talking about the perfect diet. Like, are they afraid to tell you that, oh, I had chocolate yesterday, or, you know?
Yeah, like you try to disarm them, and almost like I'm volunteering what I have eaten myself. Like, you know, you really are trying to kind of make it not a safe place, but it's just to make it, it's okay. You know, it doesn't matter where you are right now. You know, it's literally just, let's see what we can improve on, if anything does need to be improved. But it's more the fact that, yeah, and that can be, they can be quite what I call it defensive, you know, and you're just trying to relax them into making sure that, listen, you're doing nothing wrong. We just want to put certain things right. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense. So it's very much, and that becomes this issue of behavior change, not just for the child, but also for the parent. And what I mean by behavior change is that no dietitian really can give a prescriptive diet. Okay, this is what we eat. You also look at how are you going to get the person to do the changes. You know what I mean? And in this case, it would be the parents, because that's where it starts, you know. So, and you're looking at things, say if there was 5, 6 things they need to work on, let's pick 3. And that even goes for adults as well. It's not just parents and their children. It's just, let's just do small changes and work on that, rather than giving, you know, 3 fruit and then no snacks, you know what I mean? You can't give them
no cake, goals. No fun.
Yeah, a juice, you know, every day, and nuts and fruit for in between meals. That doesn't work either, you know.
Are people actually surprised when you say that about doing it gradually and bringing in things as opposed to, do they expect you to go, we're going to overhaul everything, you're not allowed chocolate, you're not allowed everything?
Yeah, I think some people do want change now, and you know, some people, for parents, I suppose too, yeah, for parents it'd be more, they might be relieved because they realize, okay, I can go at Johnny's pace now, you know, I don't need to scare, and I have a whole plan where I can take my time with this. And when I explain about the growth of a child as well, that gives a bit of leeway into, you know, the energy will be used up for his growth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For adults, some people, there's different types of people. Some people want it here and now, and they just may not like that kind of heaven's sake. And you're really trying to teach them the consistency piece to everyday habits and practices will actually get you there, even though you feel it's slower if you just take your time in tackling one thing at a time. That can be frustration for people, but you're really trying to teach them the consistency of just keep on repeating that habit and getting good habits in there. Other people then who've come to me are actually relieved, thinking, oh, thank God, I don't have to do the let's lose a stone for what time, bank holiday weekend vibe, you know what I mean? But it can be, but I think the ones then who are really kind of works well is when they've tried a lot of stuff before and it doesn't really work. And they realize, okay, I need to kind of, you know, refocus or have a different insight into how I can, as I said before, that behavior change piece, and to be able to make the changes in their diet and lifestyle.
I suppose when they're working with children and the parents are working with the children, they want to do it for their child, where sometimes it can be harder for say, a person who's coming for their own physical health or whatever, trying to convince them. Would you find that at all, or is it a case of they might be burned out with I've done every other diet that's come out in the last few years, and they're like, look, I'll do it slowly, I just want to feel good about myself?
Yeah, I think for adults, like say working on their own goals, you see, it's what you said earlier on, Chrissy, like Instagram, which is great, God, but like there's so much information there now that it's almost information overload. And especially in the past year when we've all kind of lived in virtual land. And it's great, it's really positive. I mean, I'm all for, you know, positive social kind of media stories as well. It's a positive platform. But the negative is it can be almost too much. And it's trying to pull apart what is important, and then also what applies to you and what motivates you. So you can get kind of like advice fatigue almost, where you almost just have too much and so it's in conjunction with that too much information, and then everything they've tried before, they don't know what works. So it's really just trying to simplify it, make it one kind of step at a time with that consistency, and really keep on bringing them back to that. And then as they progress through a program, then they realize, okay, it's kind of almost like a stress relief kind of thing.
They see it's better.
Yeah. But that's difficult for people because, you know, they just, especially people who've gained weight, for example, in the past year, they just want to see it, especially if lockdown is lifting or whatever, they want to kind of get rid of the weight and everything, but it doesn't quite happen like that. You have to kind of do it slowly, you know.
I think as well, people forget, like, say, for instance, stone they want to lose in 2 weeks. Like, it didn't take 2 weeks to come.
Yeah.
Like, you built it up over 6 months. So theoretically going the other way, but they don't see that. They go, no, I want it gone now.
They want it gone now, but the thing is, you don't want it revisiting again. So if you take your time losing it, it's not going to come back. Whereas if you lose it in 2 weeks, I guarantee you in 3 months, you're going to have another stone added onto it. And that whole psychological kind of seesaw approach to your health, you might be able to get away with that approach in your 20s, but in your 30s, 40s, 50s, it catches up with you, and it plays a detrimental relationship with your own mental health and food. You know what I mean? So it's really just to take the foot off the accelerator and just slow down and really rejig on what's important, and just, you will get there. It may take 3 months or 6 months, but then that's you. Then you have to focus on maintaining it rather than boom, boom, boom. You know, you just, you know, if anything, I think lockdown, it's trying to retrain your brain and to do things a different way, you know?
Yeah. Like, lockdown has forced us to slow down. So now when we come back to normal, take that slow approach to everything, and it'll be better off.
Yeah, well, I think it's just kind of, you know, accepting, okay, what can I achieve? How do I go about it? Okay, on we go. And any kind of change is difficult. It's not easy. Like, I'll never forget when I was doing, oh God, it was kind of like a train the trainer on this obesity course.
Yeah.
And I remember one thing the instructor that said to us, we're all either dietitians or GPs, healthcare professionals who attended this course, basically. And she says, when you're given advice on weight loss, the one thing you have to impart to your patient or client is they are actually going to be hungry.
Yeah.
And this is a kind of, people forget that it's uncomfortable for change. So it's not to say they are going to be starving. If they're eating the right, nutritious, kind of rich food, they won't be hungry like they would eat, say, really high sugary food. I mean, obviously, the more nutrition you have in your diet, the better your body is going to be fueled, and the less likely you're going to have cravings, etc. However, change is always going to be difficult. You're always going to have that craving for the initial few days, week or so. That change is hard. Once you accept that and know they will pass, then but you have to coach people through that transition as well.
Yeah.
So it's not to say they're going to be, I suppose hungry might be the wrong word, but that change is uncomfortable when they get used to a different type of food, if they're not used to eating a certain way. So that's something that, and then once people understand that, and that it passes, then I think the change becomes easier, you know?
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right about that. But as well, also, I think you'd be a little bit hungry and a little bit uncomfortable. You shouldn't be absolutely starving.
No, oh no, and that's a different thing. Oh
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're starving yourself for weight loss, yeah, that's another merry-go-round of nonsense, really. Yeah. No, it has to be good.
Yeah,
nutrition.
I knew you weren't saying that, but I just like to clarify for anyone going like, geez, I'm starving all the time. Oh, that's normal. No, it's okay to be slightly hungry while your body's adapting to less calories.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. It's like, do you know what it is? It's like the opposite of that Christmas dinner type of feeling. So if you were to overeat every day, you'd have that really full kind of feeling. After a while, you get used to that and your stomach adjusts, and then it wants more food. It's the same when you're reducing your intake. Your stomach is slightly hungry, but not really, and then you're fine. After a few days, then you get used to, or it could be a week or two. Some clients of mine, it takes 2 weeks for them to adjust their appetite to the lesser varied different type of intake. But yeah, it's that kind of slightly uncomfortable, but you're right, Chrissy, they shouldn't be starving. That's a whole other podcast for someone else.
Oh yeah, no, like I knew that's not what you meant. You know, I just like to be careful, just so someone like, it's like, it's that difference between kind of being a little bit hungry and all you're thinking about is food. That's kind of, it's like, if that's dictating your whole day, that's the other extreme.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes in that you have to eat right. You have to eat a lot of good food to give you the nutrition to help with that as well. You know, it's the choices you make.
Yeah, exactly. Like the idea, like bulking food up or higher protein, stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Eating things that say low calories on them. because he'll
Yes,
be hungry
exactly.
after then.
Yes.
Actually, going back to the kids and the fussy eating, how do you deal with that, or is there different techniques you use for them, or?
Well, really, it's offering food, not just once, but a good few times. So, say for example, if we didn't like vegetables, which is quite common, I suppose, for children, but you just offer one type of veg, and every few days you just have it there, and there's no fuss made. So there's no kind of, you have to eat this, or if you don't eat this, or look, your brother's eating, so much, you can, it's very relaxed. It's just there. Everybody else is eating whatever vegetables, not just, him or her. And it just becomes part of the normal routine. And that's all you do. You just literally go at the relaxed pace, and that it's part of the everyday kind of meal prep. They also can get involved in preparation of the food, or even just touching the food. They don't even have to be involved in the cooking, but just see it being washed, maybe help washing the vegetable, and that's it. Maybe that'll be that for the meal as regards the exposure to the veg, but that basically that it's there. It's very present. Whether they see it being washed, or they help washing it, or they help in preparing it, or cooking it, or they might be offered taste of it, whatever. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing is not to kind of stock up, not to have snacks in case they're hungry in between meals. Now, you don't want your child to be hungry or starving or any of that kind of tactic either. You want to make, but that the meals are consistent. So it's not necessarily you need to have breakfast every morning at 7:15, between 7:15 and 8:15, and boom, boom. But that you always offer a breakfast, you always offer a lunch, you always offer a dinner, and you offer snacks in between. And there usually are similar types of snacks. So again, it doesn't have to be the fruit and nut kind of healthy or smoothie, or you know what I mean, anything too extreme. It could be just, a cream cracker with a slice of cheese mid-morning, or a yogurt with maybe 1 or 2 chocolate buttons in it in the afternoon. But that generally every afternoon, not that every afternoon they need to have yogurt with a chocolate button in it, but that every afternoon they're roughly getting a snack between 3 and 4 or whatever. It depends on what routine you have in your house, if you have dinner early or not. But that consistency piece to planning out meals is important as well, because whether you're a child or an adult, but particularly when you're trying to train your child into good eating habits, it's very important that their body knows when they're getting food. So equally, that they're not getting too much food. So you want to give them a little bit as a snack, maybe mid-afternoon, but that they're hungry enough for dinner, that you haven't been to the park, for example, and given them, oh, we might be delayed in the car, I'll give them an extra packet of crisps, or, you know what I mean? You start adding extras just in case, the just in case snacks. That disrupts the appetite. So I don't know, Chrissy, if I've answered that correctly. It's in the preparation, the seeing, the touching, the tasting of food in a very relaxed, doesn't matter whether you eat it or not type of atmosphere. And equally that the child is hungry at meal times, in the sense of they're ready to eat, not that they're starving again to make a difference, but they're ready to eat. They've had enough fuel in the body to get on with their day, but that their body's expecting to be refueled. It's all about fuel rather than treats or kind of empty calories. So there are two approaches, but it can be a slow burner, and you'd be amazed actually when you analyze kids' diets of what we'd call it a diet history. When you put that into a computer package and look at the vitamins and minerals in particular, there are quite a good range of vitamins and minerals, even if they're not eating a varied diet. So you don't have to be eating a huge rainbow of fruit and vegetables, for example, to get all the vitamins and minerals. Now, a different scenario is, yes, you should be eating a huge rainbow for your gut bacteria, but that's a different scenario for adults. But just in the so it's also to reassure parents that their child can be doing quite well, even if they're not having a varied diet, but it's just be very relaxed. It's difficult. I know, I'm a parent myself, and it is difficult, but I think it's more difficult when you're the parent rather than, a health professional giving advice. So it's always a tricky one.
Yeah, we really grew up in the years of, now I wasn't a fussy eater, my sister was, and it was like, you're not leaving until you've eaten that.
Yeah,
So.
oh yeah. or my day, I was like, listen, there's kids starving in Africa, you know, finish that food. And I know it's something that we've all had to, you know, yeah. And then of course you could say like fizzy drinks. Sorry, I should mention fizzy drinks. It's not just kind of on scheduled snacks where you're coming home in the car, and but fizzy drinks are equally the appetite kind of damagers, if that's the way to explain them, in the sense that they're empty calories. And by what I mean by that is there's loads of calories in fizzy drinks, but there's no nutrients. And also they can interfere with the appetite in that they will give you that sugar rush or the sugar buzz and gas and fill up the stomach, expand the stomach, and the child will not be hungry. You know, it's kind of, that's what I mean by empty calories. It gives calories, but does nothing for the body, you know. So yeah, fizzy drinks out. That's one way I will. I was relaxed with the odd chocolate treat, but no fizzy drinks.
Yeah, I think that's good though with kids. They probably shouldn't really be loading up on that stuff, and they are from a very young age now, aren't they?
Yeah, and even when you see them, I mean, okay, you don't really see them playing sport, they're only just back playing sport, but say the times when they used to play matches and have the Lucozade, you only need a bottle of Lucozade if you're running a marathon, you know, like it's just, people are, there's loads of those sports drinks and stuff. There really are for sports people, not just for, you know, a quick, you know, match, you know, or football game or whatever, you know, just normal water, you know what I mean? Again, it's just unnecessary calories that you're feeding into your child, you know.
Yeah, and I suppose you're saying like the appetite disruptor, like not that you're trying to starve them, but if they're a fussy eater and they're not very hungry, they have an opportune moment then to be like, no, I don't like that, I'm not having that, isn't it? Whereas if they're a little more hungry, they might be like, I'll try that.
Well, it's just, you want to be, you're trying to train the appetite basically. So you want to be able to, that it's not just random aimless snacks all the time whenever they want. You want to say, well, no, listen, we're going to have something now at 2 o'clock. You know, this is what we're having. It's like, you know, you don't eat an hour beforehand or chocolate before a meal. That will then, you know, it's trying to train them into that kind of good habits. But it's difficult for it's like what I was coming back to initially. It's whatever they see. So if you're tucking into the fridge yourself and having a couple of slices of cheese before you prepare dinner, they're going to see that, you know what I mean? So it's a question of what healthy habits are there. I mean, not every day can be perfect, for heaven's sake. It has to be, you know, I mean, there are going to be days rather when things aren't balanced and people are rushing around and stuff like that. So it is important that, you know, that you have, I suppose, not necessarily consistency, but that there are, if there's certain days that are off kind of filter, that's okay too. And then you get back on the general norm is the consistency piece, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
It's like the whole, the 80-20 kind of thing, isn't it? Because life happens sometimes, and no matter how perfect you are, you'll never be 100% on a diet.
No.
So
that's it. And it's kind of being able to roll with that, you know what I mean?
You just reset when you can.
Yeah. But I think, like, people ask me this a lot too, like, what about special, in general, not just for kids, but just in general for adults, like, what about special occasions or going, well, on holidays, but say Christmas or bank holidays, actually. This is a lot of questions I get lately. You know, when something's out of kind of the normal routine, and I says, yeah, but that's out of the normal routine. Your everyday habits, your everyday routine will kind of make up for that, you know? So whatever way you eat that's out of the ordinary, leave it out of the ordinary. But if it starts translating into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in a normal week, then that's when the habits are starting to kind of go the opposite direction, where you're, if that makes sense. So yeah, you're right, Chrissy. Life isn't going to be the same every day, or, you know, you have beautiful, you know, packed lunches and freshly struck strawberries and whatnot. No, you know what I mean? It's going to be whatever's in the fridge, and good luck and see you. Yeah, I know.
Off you go.
Yeah, off you go. Yeah, leave me alone.
I love that you mentioned that about the bank holiday as well, because I think when, like, people do, they start to like obsess a bit more. It's like, oh, Sunday, I'm off on Monday. Oh, that's it. Be game over. It's like, no, you can still reset on Tuesday. You don't have to, like, it doesn't have to start perfectly every Monday. Yeah.
Or I said to a client once, she was saying, oh my God, takeaway on Friday. I said, why don't you have a takeaway on Tuesday? Okay, why don't you just, you know, not train your brain that it's always the weekend. Just go, or even midday Wednesday, just have maybe just, you know, rejig how you do things. You know what I mean? It doesn't all have to be focused, but we do associate different days or different events with, and that's fine too, for heaven's sake. But you're right, as long as the Tuesday you're back into your normal routine, you know, is very important. Yeah, it doesn't go off.
Do you find actually, do you come across many adults who are very fussy eaters from childhood, or do they tend to grow out of it, or is it really?
A lot of them, I've actually, you know, that's a very interesting question. I've never really, I suppose there's, you know, their tastes generally tend to change, or they tend to adapt, I think, to when they go away on holidays or with the partners or their own family. But yeah, there, mind you, when I'm kind of thinking about it now, as I answer you, have been one or two that I've come across that will persistently never eat vegetables, you know, or they won't.
I know one of them.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, and yeah, very healthy, you know, individual. But he came to me for reduced cholesterol, you know, and one of the pieces of advice is, you know, to increase your fruit and vegetables. He said, don't eat any at all. And it was a funny conversation, actually. It just came from that he never did. Yeah. So, do you know what? There's no kind of general rule, I suppose, really. I shouldn't generalize. Generally, most adults so will. I mean, actually, a lot of adults, regardless whether they're fussy eaters or not, they don't eat, we just don't eat enough fruit and vegetables. So that's a different, you know, kind of, I suppose, example. But and then that's coming into, you know, behavior change and trying to get people to change their habits. And yeah.
When they're in their 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, probably harder than when they're 8 and you can be like, look at the carrot, have a bit of carrot.
Yeah. Well, generally those people get older, especially when they start coming into their 40s, they realize, okay, there is a bit of a health component to this, you know. So people who want to change or come to me who want to change, they will generally want to make that change because they know there's a reason, you know. So that can be a good motivator, but again, it can be hard to stick them to the habit. You know what I mean? It's just trying to motivate people.
Feel a bit better. They're like, I go back to the old way.
Yeah. So it's just keeping them on track, really, is a challenge.
Is it generally then like health factors that would promote them to change, or is there any? Probably it's the main reason, isn't it?
Well, it depends. I suppose in my area, being a dietitian, it would be, I suppose, GP referrals would be medical conditions. You know, that would be from anything from diabetes to cholesterol to kidney disease, celiac disease, inflammatory bowel disease, so Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. Actually, I do a lot of work with gut health. So it would be, I don't know if you've heard, anyway, it'd be low FODMAP diet and eating well for your gut. So it's a lot of people would kind of get referrals or even self-referrals, as I said, for those areas. It's quite broad, that list, but I kind of mainly deal with gut health, really, is a lot of my kind of common and IBS, I suppose, related issues as well with gut health. So that would be one area where people would want to come and get advice, and they'd be kind of motivated as well. But when I might see them, say 6 months or a year down the road, they may not be still practicing the advice. So it's just to keep up, you know what I mean? Although, and I say that too, Chrissy, when people get results, they usually then will keep on going. So that's not fair to say as well. So definitely that people do, and I think when they do get results, it makes a difference. And then other people then at large would be like when they see their body changing as they grow older and aging, and they want to stay just generally fit and healthy. So I suppose kind of appearances might guide them, you know what I mean, and not wanting to gain weight or lose weight if they have gained weight, which can be quite common. And also as you get older, people don't use their body maybe as much as they should, so they lose muscle. So you're trying to retrain them into how important it is to retain muscle and gain muscle and you're really and forever trying to, you know, get that myth. You're not going to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're just trying to protect your bones. The more, as I say, the firmer the cushion, the softer the fall. So what I mean by that is the cushion basically is your muscle wrapped around your bone. So if you have good muscle tone, you're less likely to deal with bone fractures, osteoporosis. It's a muscle health and vitamin D and protein intake. All those have a knock-on effect on how well your body ages and how. Anyway, you know,
I love how you mentioned the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, because I swear if I had like €1 for every time someone said, I don't want to get bulky.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to work anymore. I'd be sorted. Like.
Yeah, I know. People, think that if they really start doing weights and if they take, well, you have to be careful, obviously, with the amount of protein you take, but, they need to eat enough protein. That's really what will feed the muscle, and it's getting that without feeling, no, you'd have to be, it's impossible.
I'm always like, do you think I'm bulky? I've been trying this for 10 years. It's not happening.
I know. But that I suppose that would be another reason why people would want to get advice or come get referrals.
I think when you're mentioning as well the IBS and stuff like that, definitely with that, if people have struggled for a long time, they do tend to put the work in because it's just such an uncomfortable condition to deal with, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like a dysfunctional functioning disorder. So by that I mean you're not really functioning well, but you're actually going about your own business. Most of the time you're not sick at home in bed. You're just going about your day-to-day life, but you could be in real agony or cramps or your quality of life is greatly affected by IBS-like symptoms. Even that brain fog that people might talk about, you know what I mean? You don't necessarily have to have stomach cramps. So yeah, but people get great results though with that. There's a special diet now called low FODMAP. So the people are getting great results from that. So it's and again, it's not a long-term diet. That is, I suppose, more kind of dietetic kind of guided kind of session, but it makes a huge difference to the gut health and how they improve their symptoms.
Yeah, I know. I have heard of the low FODMAP. I think it's definitely something you have to do with a dietitian, don't you? Because I think many people have tried it, just end up in the elimination phase, and then.
That's right. And it's so important then, if you don't reintroduce, now you may not suit you to reintroduce certain foods, but if you don't start reintroducing foods, you won't know if you're tolerant to them. And the whole idea is then that you increase the variety of foods, in particular, those probiotic type of foods, and that improves the gut bacteria, the good stuff in the gut. And that's what you want. You want plenty of good bacteria there, So but no, it's easier actually if it's with a dietitian, because you can get, again, what we're saying at the beginning of this, Chrissy, that there's loads of information there on wonderful Google world, but you need to be guided through it to do it correctly and to know what you're doing, I think.
I think my sister, she focused on IBS as a nutritionist, and when she first found out about it, she was basically handed a sheet by the doctor and like, low FODMAP, try that, off you go. And she realized, she's like, no, you need someone who's trained in it, who can guide you through it, because you can just be like, oh, I can't eat 10 different things, I can never eat them again, and
it's
cause so much anxiety.
Because that's it. And I think especially with IBS, the anxiety piece as well can be ignored or overlooked, and that really does affect, because the cells in the lining of your gut are almost considered now like the second brain. They're so sensitive to the nerve endings there in the cells in the gut wall, pick up on how you feel, and that also constricts the movement in that area. So it's very important, the more relaxed that you are within, obviously we can't all go around Zen-like, but it's to be mindful basically of the stresses that will affect that area. And you're right, anything that's sort of given and you really want it to work, but you don't have maybe the right guidance, it's going to add more to that stress. So it's definitely takes the headache out of it, really.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are thinking doing it, go to someone who's trained in and help you through it. Just for yourselves, well, as you said, like the stress and anxiety, it's going to add to those symptoms. And
and it only just needs, like, generally it's just 3 sessions. That's generally what I do, is 3 sessions with someone over a period of time. It's not like you're going to a dietitian every month for a year. It's just it should be over 3 sessions. Now sometimes people might want to come back, but generally that's what it would be.
It's not as, I suppose, makes it less daunting then if you think it's only a couple of sessions as well.
And that's what it only should be, really.
So I think that is most of everything, with the one exception of my favorite little question that I like to ask. And Denise, what is the best advice that you've ever gotten?
Life or diet?
Life. You can throw diet advice as well if you want.
Okay, I think
you can
for
pick
life,
2 as well. You don't have to pick one
okay,
exact one.
I'll pick 2 then. Okay. Life, I think this too will pass. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that expression. Because no matter what you're going through, it will pass. And equally though, it can apply to diet and change. I'm not to bring this in purpose, but it will, because time will move on, and what will you have achieved? So, and time moves on very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's where you are now, and like what I said, coming back to those habits, whatever you change in 6 months' time, they'll be second nature. They'll be like just brushing your teeth. So time moves on anyway. So why not make the change so it will pass, the discomfort, what we're saying and getting there. But that more so, I love that expression, this too will pass, and just in general life, For diet, I think it's just take one thing. I remember saying this to someone close to me, and I forgot I said this, and they gave me the advice back to me, and I forgot I said to them, but she said it really helped her. She says, just take one thing and master that. Keep it really simple, and get that sense of achievement. And once you get that, and then you start seeing the results of maybe that one thing, then building that. So just one thing, really simple, achievement. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I think that also works in life. Like, you can focus on something really small and then build from there. I think everyone looks at the mountain and goes, can't fix that.
Well, you get overwhelmed. You get that paralysis feeling, don't you? Like, it's just like, what do I do? Where, how, what? And then stagnant, nothing happens,
Yeah.
And then time moves on. This too will pass. But seriously, you know what I mean? It's just to make it really doable, small goals.
It's like the time is going to pass anyway, so why wouldn't you
start making exactly it.
Tiny little steps, even if it's like something, it's not, it's something, it's nothing. It's not.
That's
nothing.
it. No. But you're hitting the nail on the head, Christy. It really is. It is something, and to do whatever small change, it will become something rather than do nothing. And 6 months later, oh God, I must do this. Oh, I don't know where to start. That whole confusion, it's just to chisel away out of that thought process.
I think it's a real mindset shift getting to that, isn't it? Getting to go just to that. It's not just
shift, but I'd be kind of thinking, while you're trying to think about it, just do one thing. So whether it's exercise, I remember a very quick story when I told this lady, I said, just put on your runners while you're watching Coronation Street. I says, on the break, just put on your run. That's all I want you to do for a week. Now, when Coronation Street's finished, I want you just to go out the door and walk to the nearest lamppost, just to get the action, the momentum. And sure enough, then she actually, her body started get, oh God, the runners, it triggered the association of walk. She just went out for a 5-minute walk. She eventually builds up to a half an hour, and then she got into the habit of walking. So it's very simple, obviously example, but it just goes to show how your mindset, you're just triggering that part of your brain into action. So, anyway,
that's brilliant though. It is show just that's that little one thing, and just how it builds and snowballs.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But so that I think is everything. Denise, I just want to, where can everybody find you?
Oh yeah, so it's if they email me, happyzestnutrition, and so it's basically happyzestnutrition@gmail.com. So you can get me that way. Or as I said, you can self-refer, or a GP, if you have some sort of medical, a GP can refer into me as well. So either or.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much, Chrissy. It's lovely chatting to you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. It was great, and so much information there. I think it's brilliant. We covered a lot of things in such a short amount of time.
Absolutely.
And then, just as ever with me, I'm still on Instagram and TikTok at Chrissy H Fitness. So thank you again for joining us, Denise.
Great stuff. Thanks.
Thank you again for listening to the Why Not podcast. It really means a lot that you are listening in, and I would love if you could please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or subscribe on Spotify. And always, I'd love to hear feedback personally, so if you do want to leave me a message and let me know how you found the podcast, please do.